across the fence, we'll take in a little bit of Asia and a little bit of India, and for good measure, we'll throw in a drink or two. Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Our destination today is the University of Vermont's Fleming Museum. The museum has opened its spring exhibitions. They span the globe, including an artistic look at drinking in cultures around the world. To begin, Rebecca Gollin spoke with a photographer whose exhibit focuses on her travels to India for more than 3 decades.
I started going to India about 30 years ago, maybe longer, and I was, at that point, a long-time meditator. I started meditating early in my 20s, and I went really for spiritual reasons. I would go to ashrams or go on retreats, and I spent a lot of the time in India in the beginning looking at the back of my eyelids. And after many, many trips, I felt like I owed India something for all that I had received from the country. And so I contacted an orphanage and I said, the next time I'm in India, could I come and do seva? In India, that's selfless service. That's the word they use. So the woman said yes, and that was in Varanasi. So after that trip, I went to Varanasi and I spent 2 weeks living in the orphanage with the children. They were street children and orphans, and I got very involved with that community. And from there, I established myself more than just a visitor.
What are some of the techniques you use to create your pieces?
All of these images have been sewn together using Photoshop, and they're sewn together using different angles. There are many, many images within the images, but they tend to look like a straight image. But if you know anything about photography, you know that a camera can't do these. But they could be kind of deceiving, and I've had professional photographers not realize that they're actually stitched together. So I want it to be both very natural and something you're comfortable with. I also think it's more the way we see the world than the camera. The camera photographs an object, and this actually pulls you in and sort of takes you out a little bit in a way that we experience the world rather than the way the camera records it. And there's a lot more on this, on the museum videotape, telling the more specifics of it.
What's the meaning of 1008?
Well, if you asked any Hindu or any Indian that, and there are over 1 billion of them in the world, each one would know, because 1008 represents the god Shiva. And it's believed that there are 1008 names for the Lord Shiva. And the thinking behind this, I think, is very interesting, is that there's no one thing or even 20 things that could describe God. But these, if you got 1008, you would get closer, but not the full picture. So it's a way of looking at the world with all of its multiplicity and levels and trying to get to the essence without thinking you can do it in one sentence. And so when I was doing the photographs, I felt like there were 1008 aspects to India that I had encountered, and that if someone saw them, they would get somewhat closer to the experience of India that I had, but not necessarily the whole one.
What's it like being a woman traveling alone through India, looking for these opportunities to take photographs?
I must be a little naive, or I've been living under a rock, but I did know it was a big deal, so that probably made it happen easier. I'd already been to India quite a few times, maybe 12 times with groups, so I knew the culture a little bit. And then I started, slowly, and then worked out. And I found the big advantage is being an older woman. I'm very unthreatening. People would invite me into their homes. I had the opening of homes and a level of intimacy that I think if a man was traveling by himself, he wouldn't have. And that was one of the big advantages. And then once I started doing work with orphans in the community got very protective of me. And even when I would go to foreign places outside of it, they would always keep tabs of me without me asking. So it was almost they wanted to protect me, and I never had one bad experience.
So the show's not just photography, there's sound and other multimedia aspects of it. How does everything tie together?
Well, when they offered me the show here, we discussed it, and this is such an innovative museum, and they're so committed to connecting with the audience. And they, as well as myself, felt like technology was, of course, a good vehicle for doing that. So having the ability to just let someone walk through and not have a cumbersome sort of storyline to begin with, but if they want more information, they can go to these little iPads that are mounted on the wall, and they can find out about individual images or technique or backstories, how it happened. I thought that would add a lot of interest to the viewer. And then the piece that's an installation piece gave us an opportunity to show 1,008 images from the book rather than the few you can ever do when you're framing them and hanging them. And then I had, through my travels, had recorded street sounds, and so those were woven together into, I think, a very beautiful background sound. So that's playing as each of those images, and it's not like a slideshow, they're merging in and out of each other, sort of pulsating, so it just gives another experience. So we felt like we've got auditory, and we have visual, and then I also have some of the books out, so there's a kinesthetic experience. They can thumb through the books. And just using all of those modalities via technology, I think makes a much more interesting show.
What do you want viewers to take away from this show?
I'm going to be giving a talk in April, and I would like my talk to be about the power of beauty and how it's so important in the human experience. And we're potentially the only animal that responds to beauty. And when I think about it, I think that's such a powerful gift that was given us. And the trails that I followed were always looking for the beauty, and not the Hallmark card beauty, but just the authentic beauty that I felt like was everywhere. And I know people have made a lot of photographs of India, and oftentimes they're very depressing and unsettling, and I think some of mine are unsettling, but I always still try to bring that element of beauty into them. And it's sometimes the friction between the unsettling and the beauty that make them even more powerful, I would hope. So I would like people to question, what role does beauty play in my life, and can I see beauty in things that we don't typically think of as being beautiful, and change their way of seeing and open up their life to new experiences.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and our thanks to Katherine Jansen for taking the time to visit with us. Joining me now is the director of the Fleming Museum, Janie Cohen. Great to see you again.
Great to be here.
Now, how did the museum become aware of Ms. Jansen's work?
Well, this was really interesting. I heard about her work from two different people within about a month. And, you know, as she said, she's been doing this forever. But one of the museum's advisory board members, who's given a lot of Indian art, and it's in our new Asian gallery, told me about Katherine. And then shortly after that, a museum director from the Philadelphia area mentioned her, and I thought, I really need to go see her.
And so in the video, she mentioned that she's going to be giving a talk in April. What's going to be all about that?
So as she said, you know, the idea of beauty is really important to her. She's a great storyteller, and she is going to be talking a lot about the backstories to some of the photographs, her experiences, and also more about her really unusual technique.
Well, another spring exhibition at the museum involves Asian art, and I understand the pieces are from the permanent collection?
Yes. Yes. So this is has been long in the process, and it is our Asian collection, Pan-Asian, so it covers a huge area, and it is really a spectacular collection of work.
So what does the exhibit include?
So it focuses on South Asia, East Asia, and Southeast Asia. It includes fine art and decorative arts, courtly or ceremonial arts, religious art, wide range of materials, and you know, not only China, Japan, India, but Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Burma, Myanmar. You know, areas that you probably haven't seen as much material from.
And so Asian art is one of the fastest growing parts of the museum. Why is that?
Well, that's a really interesting question. They've come to us from different sources, and one of the large gifts that we got in 2003 was from the Doris Duke collection, which was a very famous collection of Southeast Asian art. That was being distributed, and we were very, very fortunate to be one of the museums that it came to. And then in other cases, it's UVM alum, who have spent time in Asia for various reasons. One of our advisory board members, David Nayland, and his brother Richard, who's an alum, who have been collecting Gandharan art for many, many years and have given us a lot.
That's fantastic. Now, UVM students are involved in this as well.
Very much so.
Which I find really interesting, and what an opportunity.
It's fabulous. And in general, this is something that we are doing much, much more of over the past decade. There's a lot of student curating going on. And in this case, Asian Studies has been very involved with us. And this was an honors college class called Visualizing India, and the students suggested components of the installation, and they did very valuable research for us. So, as well as faculty members in a variety of departments also contributed. So it's really been a wonderful experience.
Now, a third spring exhibit is about something that we can all relate to. It's called Imbibe. So it's about drinking.
Yes, it is. So this is vessels, primarily drinking vessels from cultures throughout the world. And it is, Asia, the West, Africa, Indonesia, you name it, all kinds of materials. And it is all from the permanent collection, and just gives you a sense of how deep and wide our collection is around any idea.
Mm-hmm. And so is there a Vermont connection?
There is. There's actually a lot of Vermont material. You see the Missisquoi Springs pamphlet, which talks about how water from that spring cures all kinds of ailments. There are spring bottles from Vermont springs from a variety of sources. Yeah.
And so all different kinds of materials as well.
Yes. Yeah, everything from silver to the red Solo cup plastic.
Of course. Well, some of those pieces look like they could be found, in your grandmother's house.
And they could. Yeah, so it's a range of kinds of value. I mean, they're things of great financial value, but also sentimental and aesthetic and historical. I mean, we all have a vessel in our life that's been important to us and will always be.
Interesting. Now, do you have a favorite?
A lot. But actually, I think one of the ones you saw, which was a very large water pitcher from Syria, late 19th century, is absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
And again, these items came from where?
All over, and a lot of them were given to us. There's actually a number of things like that tea set you saw at the beginning that was given by Catherine Walcott, who also gave Robert Hull Fleming's wealth to the University of Vermont to create the museum. From her to very recent gifts as well, and purchases.
And once again, let's talk a little bit about the special speaker that you have coming in.
So we are very excited. We are having the drinks columnist from the New York Times on March 2nd, speaking about the kinds of communities that are created in neighborhood pubs and bars, and woman's place in that. So we want to invite everybody. It's a cocktail event. There will be a special cocktail from Turchin, Maine, and it's $5 at the door and a cash bar. And she'll be speaking at 6 o'clock, but it's 5:30 to 7 on March 2nd.
What fun!
Yeah.
It's a great way to sort of involve the community and involve the exhibit.
Absolutely.
Now, for more information on the Fleming Museum and its current exhibitions, you can call 802-656-2090, or you can check the website, flemingmuseum.org. Again, the number is 656-2090, or check the museum's website. And once again, those are some of the special exhibits, but there's always the permanent collection.
Absolutely.
Which includes the mummy.
That's right. Always.
Always got to get the mummy in. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.